Unit 9, Reporting, Documentation, and Observation. This is our last unit we're going to go over. You guys have done it. This is it, so congratulations. We have spoken many times about reporting and how you need to report things that you see, you hear, you do to the nurse, anything that's out of the ordinary for your resident. But you also need to document. You have to document the things that are done, are said, are supposed to be done, things that are weird that you didn't expect, but it happened, so you need to document all that stuff. It is a record that every client's going to have. Doesn't matter if you're in a doctor's office, in a hospital, in a chiropractic clinic, in a home. If you are a patient of somebody's, they have a medical record on you. It is permanent. It's written. It's a written record. Some are going to, now most, I believe, are all electronic documentation. So very little actual written documentation. It's mostly electronic. But as a home health aide, you may still have the written, where you have to document the things that you do in the home on paper, and it gets scanned into the patient's chart. The record serves many purposes. It's to document the work that's done, the quality of care, the progress. It's used for billing, for reimbursement, and it's a basis for determining, is the plan of care accurate? Is this what we need to be doing, or do we need to change the plan to make the patient safer? Are they doing more for themselves so we can back off and our plan of care needs to be less, or are they losing abilities and we need to increase services on what we're doing for them in the home? So that's kind of where the medical record assists doctors and the nurses and everybody that's involved. All the information is confidential. It is legal. It can find itself in court if something were to go wrong, and you need to be able to defend what you wrote in there and what you did. So you need to document at the time that things happen and not wait till the end of the shift to document everything, because you just don't know, one, if something major is going to happen between now and the end of your shift, or two, are you going to remember what happened at 8 o'clock this morning when you're documenting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? You're not really going to remember. So you just need to keep track of things throughout the day, document them down. That way it's on there and you don't have to worry about it. This is an example of a weekly client care record that you may see at your facility or at your agency that you work with. On the left-hand side under personal care, there's going to be those check-marked boxes. Is it done? For the bath, is it a bed bath? Is it a shower? What? It's going to be check-marked. If it's not check-marked, that's not what you do. If it's check-marked for a shower, patient's not doing well, they feel like, oh, I can't get up. You're concerned about their safety getting them up. You cannot just choose to do a bed bath. You must contact the nurse and say, we have a status change. Something's up, not sure. Supposed to give a tub bath today, supposed to give a shower. I don't feel comfortable getting them up. I don't think they're safe. Can I do a bed bath? And get that approval from your nurse before you go forward. Because remember, as we've spoken before, you have to do exactly what's on the care plan. You cannot do any more, you cannot do any less than what is on the care plan. If something happens, you need to be communicating with the nurse that's on the case so that she is aware of the changes that are happening with your client. And then once you do whatever, you're just going to document the date and put your initials in there saying this is the time that I did it, and it's done. And that's pretty routine, actually. Your documentation is really going to be pretty simple like that, where you just have to fill in the blanks, basically. Now, that's not to say some agencies aren't going to have a different type of record or maybe make you do a little bit more, but they will let you know that when you hire on and you go through the orientation process. So this basically just tells you how to document. You're going to document by initialing. You may have to put the date or the time. If something that's not routine happens, so that's how you document routine stuff, everything we just looked at there. Things that are not routine, like medical emergencies, they're complaining of chest pain, they are sitting there, they go pale, ghostly white, and you think, what in the world? And they're not responsive to you. Those are medical emergencies. There's a household emergency. You're baking something and the oven blows up, or there's a tornado or something that's going on outside that is an emergency around the house. You need to make sure that your supervisor is called, and then you also need to make sure that it's in the record, and you're actually going to physically have to write it down on the record saying, this day, this time, this happened. And it's factual information. It's not your opinion. It's never your opinion. It's always exactly what happened as far as the facts go. You want to write legibly. Print if you do not have good cursive where people can read your cursive writing. Record all phone calls to your supervisor. Put it down that you notified that person. Because if something happens to your client and you knew about it and you reported it to the nurse and the nurse didn't do what she was supposed to do, then it doesn't fall back on you for responsibility. It falls back on her because you went through the appropriate channels. You can't help that she didn't do something about it. So that doesn't fall back on you. But you have to document. If you don't document that you notified her, saying later in a court of law, saying, I called her and I told her, they're going to say, you didn't write it down, so it didn't happen. So you have to document stuff like that. Make sure you're using the agency-approved abbreviations and medical terminology. That list gets changed frequently, so usually the agency will keep you up to date on what is approved and not approved, so make sure you're making those changes as they come. Record only the facts. Document the client's response. Okay, so say they're complaining of pain at 9:30 this morning and it's shoulder pain, so there's no meds that you know of for the patient. They're asking for Tylenol or ibuprofen or something like that. Yes, you are smart enough to be able to say, sure, go ahead and take some. But that is not your job, and it is not within your role or your responsibility. And if you say that to them, you will get in trouble because you are administering medication. You need to put a call into the nurse, say they're complaining of shoulder pain. Can we give them Tylenol? Can we give them ibuprofen? Then you write it down that you contacted her and this is why and what you did. And then how did they respond? Did the pain go away in 30 minutes? Was it still there? Did you have to call the nurse again? So you're going to it needs to read very much like a book, what happened, okay, throughout your day. Be concise. Don't be flowery with your words. And, if you can say something in 5 words, say it in 5 words. Don't say, the sky was blue and this was great and this was this and have a whole page just saying that the patient needed pain medication today and you took care of it. Don't leave blank spaces because people can come behind you and put things in those blank spaces. So when you're done writing, you line over and you sign to finish out your line. Excuse me. A visit record could be in a notebook. It could be on a clipboard that goes from one to the other. Just remember that your patient's records are confidential, and that means if they go to your home, you need to keep them locked up. If they're in your car, they need to be secure, away from people's sight. It's HIPAA-protected information, even when it's traveling in your car or at your home. If your family can look at that, you're not protecting it. So make sure it's locked up in a place that people can't see, even if it needs to be transported. Reporting agency should be notified when anytime you observe any type of physical change, mental change, emotional change, anything about your client. They're complaining, they're sleepy, they're just not acting like themselves. That needs to be notified. Your nurse needs to be notified about all of that. Anything out of the ordinary. Reporting, when you call, obviously, you're going to say, hi, my name is Suzanne. I'm at John Smith's house. This is the address. This is the telephone number. This is what I'm seeing. He's doing this. These are his vital signs. This is abnormal for him. So you're going to be giving everything that you saw. You need to include, your observation includes the 5 senses. Well, 4. So what do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel or can you touch? And is there a smell or is there something, an odor of some sort? How long has the client had the problem? Did they just start complaining about it 20 minutes ago? Have they been complaining since last night and they just told you this morning? And what have you done and what are you needing to be done? So it's your responsibility to report. It's your responsibility to follow the care plan. It's your responsibility to write down the care that has been given, and it's your responsibility to report any changes in the client's condition. If you think that the care plan needs to be changed, you need to talk to your supervisor, which is your case manager, the nurse that's on the case, and talk with her about it. You and her or him have a very close relationship. You are her eyes and ears. You are two parts of the same person, basically. So talk with her. Figure out, what do we need to do to make this client safer, more independent, better, happier? It's all about that, working together. So the case manager is the only person who can change the care plan. That's it. You are not. The doctor can change the care plan, but you get your orders from the nurse, okay? Not from the doctor. If it's on the care plan, if it's written down, you follow it. But if it's not there, you don't follow it. Even if it's a verbal, you need to talk to your supervisor and say, Dr. So-and-so is here. He said this. What do you want me to do? Okay? Legal issues. Make sure you're documenting everything. Only what you observe, not your feelings about the situation. Okay? Never your feelings. The word observe means to watch carefully and attentively. It's a way of gathering information, and you do that by two different methods. Observation data is subjective and objective. Objective signs are things that you can objectively see and hear and touch and feel. Subjective is like a symptom. It's what they tell you. It's something that you cannot observe through any of your senses. So a blood pressure of 120/80 is an objective finding. They feel fine. They're not lightheaded or dizzy. That's subjective. Or I feel nauseous is subjective. Vomiting and actually throwing up, and you can see that they have thrown up emesis, that's objective. Okay, so if you can see it, if it meets any of that, it's objective, and that's what needs to go into your documentation. Now, if they're telling you this is what's wrong, then you're going to put that in quotations. The patient reports this, that I'm feeling nauseated. So we talked about all of that. Touch, sight, all that stuff. Recording time. Record time according to your agency policy. Typically it's military time. Must contain 4 digits. So it's, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's 1400. The hour is the same for the morning, so it's 2 o'clock in the morning, it's 1400 in the afternoon. This is how you determine military time. And then this is another example of how you would document activities of daily living. Here's the narrative. If anything abnormal happens or you need to contact somebody, this is kind of where you would write the day and the time, what happened, sign it with your initials or your name. Okay? All right, that's it. You guys have a great day.